Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Doodle Robot and today I'm going to do some viewer requests. It's more than one. But we have a request, how do I blend my colors? From a recent viewer that emailed me. And a long time ago I got a request about the same thing about can you show how you do your backgrounds? And they were talking about, I'm assuming it was a long time ago, they were talking about how I blend, from one color into the next, into the next, into the next. So this is going to tackle the same thing. I believe their request was for me to do like a whole one on camera, which is hard because number one, it takes a long time, and number two, when you're coloring on camera, people don't realize this. It's like the lights are set up to magnify the art, but they're not set up for best working conditions. So you can't see what you're doing. It's really hard to work something that detailed on camera. So I never did it, unfortunately. But here I can kind of tackle both of them. So the viewer requested, how do I blend from light to dark and from dark to light and light to dark, etc. Wanted an example with soft and hard leaded pencils. So we're going to use Prismacolor, soft leaded pencil, and Crayola hard leaded pencil. So those are the two that we will use for our demonstration purposes. So I have some big examples here of blended, and of course just because it's big and in the background doesn't mean that you can't shrink it down into anything. I use the same technique whether it's in the background, going from kind of this darkish mid-range green all the way up to kind of neon yellow there in the Prismacolor set. But I do the same thing in like the little flower petals. That's just on a smaller scale. That's the background's on a bigger scale. And oftentimes in my colorings, my pages, I will mix block coloring with blending of coloring and shading and shadowing and all that stuff. I just mix it up, whatever works anywhere. So like here on the wall, there's a lot of block coloring. There's a little bit of shading in this thing that looks like a candlestick. Again, lots of block coloring. I just gave a hint of highlight. So it just depends on what and where I'm doing it as to what I do. So we're going to, like, it's the same technique, whether I'm going in a big area or a teeny little area. I have another example to show you with Prismacolor. Prismacolor is my pencil of choice. I have some polychromos, but I have yet to figure out how to use them. I really have to give my assignment, like, just do a whole page in the limited polychromos that I have to figure them out. So, another example, of course, and it takes place on everything small. It could be the going side to side on the little plateau here where we're going from dark to light, the plant life. Here we have, now this cave area is different, but we have from dark all the way up to light. And I do like to change color usually. I don't just go the same color and go dark to light. I often will change color. So we have that example. That's in Johanna Basford. Oh, sorry, I didn't say what these were. Magical Jungle, one of my favorite books. This was Thomas Loftomic, whatever that says. Sprachjesbos. I'm sure that's not it. Sorry if I butchered it. And then I have an example of one that I did in Crayola colored pencil in my classic comic coloring book, Sci-Fi and Horror. And this was just to match, I didn't pick the colors, well, I picked the colors, but I picked them to match the historical art here. I don't know who the authors are. I imagine there are many who did these. And so this one was done with Crayola colored pencil. Because I did tests, and in my mind, here's the Prismacolor, which seemed weirdly thick and goopy on this paper. And the Crayola seemed more like it should be, looked more like this. Although, it's hard when you do the Crayola colored pencils. You really got to work for it. So, it takes a lot longer, it's a lot more work. But there is an example of the smooth blend. I altered this one a little bit because I thought if you had a pink planet, you would have some pink atmospheric dust. I don't know anything about that sort of science, but it seemed reasonable. So I added that in there. This was also, I did a lot of block coloring with water-based markers. I was trying to perfect my technique of getting the streaks disguised. You can check out that video if you're interested. All right, so those are some examples, and we're going to sit down today. I'm going to move you in closer. We'll sit down today and look at how we do that. So let's get set up for that. I was looking for a paper where I didn't have to work super hard at the blending technique. So we're going to need something under that. We've got just some copy paper here. And I know that some people keep logs. I can't see anything that I'm doing. There we go. Keep logs of their favorite color combinations. And I don't really keep a log of my favorite color combinations. I do, however, you can see here, the sky. This is in the Thomas Love Tomic book. Grass green, apple green, spring green, chartreuse yellow, chartreuse neon yellow. I do write down what I used, just so I can refer back to it, but I don't keep a separate log on like my favorite color combos. And here, same thing. Most people would be mortified at the way I keep notes. It's not really in any organized manner. Let's see. Background for the water was indigo blue, peacock blue, aquamarine, light aqua, deco aqua, which I'm sorry is discontinued, light green, and chartreuse. My Prismacolors are so old that I just had that one still. But Prismacolor, bring it back. It's awesome. We need it back. So what I usually do is when I'm deciding, and 9 times out of 10 I will do a background first. But that is kind of beside the point, not what we're really discussing today. I might need to move you up just a smidge. I will go through, and I've got, especially my Prismacolors, I've got this chart, which I used to keep inventory on there, but that was a bad idea because I was doing it in ink. I now keep inventory in pencil, which is not up to date at all. But I have the overall view, but I also keep it in colorways. So we have all the light colors here, and then I've got kind of yellows and oranges, reds, pinks. I don't know if you can see that. I've got it all zoomed in. Purples, blues, blue-greens, greens, grays, and then a whole thing of earth tones. Anything that could possibly be considered an earth tone is here. And this is where I go to pick my things. Now you'll notice in Crayola I was lazier. I didn't do that so much. Let's get you in screen. I just put the Crayolas in how they were in the box, which I gotta say, Crayola does a good job of organizing them in the box for us. Some other ones not so much. And then there's the colors of the world. And then there's some metallics. I think those are the only metallic colored pencils I have. I did the same thing for my Pastelos. Sorry for the glare. They're kind of into groups as to how I would use them, most likely. And same with the Brutfuner squares, which I didn't even use a little paper. I just kind of lumped them. We've got kind of our mottled colors, our mauve colors, or morandi, as people would call them. Kind of earth tones here, grays, and then in the various colorways. Because I want to look and I want to see what dark color can I use? What's like these purples, like we've got some red purples here and some more like what I would say would be true purples here. And lavender can kind of go in both groups here. So I have them lumped together so I can see. And so I just, every time I'm doing a picture, I just look. And I pick a lot of the same colors over and over because there's only so many colors. There's only so many blues. You know, so you tend to gravitate towards the same colors. I'm going to pick a dark a medium, and a light, and maybe some variation therein. It just depends on how big the background is. Sometimes I get carried away and pick way too many colors, and I'm upset with myself because I'm like, got this little space and I've got like 9 colors. Like, how am I going to fit those in there? So I'm working on trying to scale back on the colors a little bit, like how many I use. So let's just live here. We'll pick some colors. Maybe we'll do yellows and oranges. Maybe reds, yellows, and oranges. All right, so got my Prismacolors here. They're all freakishly short because I use them to death. So we're going to say, we're going to go from Scarlet Lake, 923. Can I find it? It's so small. 925. Maybe not. Oh, Scarlet Lake. There we go. Scarlet Lake to Poppy Red. 922, 922. Pale Vermilion. Orange. And yellowed orange. Oh gosh. I'm looking for it. Having trouble finding it. Oh, I found it. There we go. Okay. Okay. So let's test them out. So what I always do first, I know these, I use this combination a lot, or some combination very close to. So, but what I always do first is I'm going to test them out. I'm going to switch glasses here because looking at the camera and looking at the paper are two different things when we get old. So I'm going to do, am I in screen here? Sort of. Okay, we'll just go in the middle here. I'm going to do a test. And see, and I know that they work together already. This is good copy paper. And probably I don't even need that many colors, but let's say I was doing something like a really big sky area. You're going to want to go with more colors in something like that rather than less. In some small, tiny area, you would probably want to go with less colors. All right, and I prefer to work from dark to light. I can work light to dark, but it really taxes my brain when I have to do that. Now, I come out of art school with majoring in sculpture and painting. So watercolor was horrible in art school days. I just couldn't get the hang of it. In watercolor, you have to think backwards though. And I'll explain what that is in a second. In acrylic and oil painting, you generally paint, and this is why I do my backgrounds first. Sorry. You generally paint with oil and acrylic. You paint, the rule was, they said this over and over to us, paint first what you see last. So you're working from the background to the middle ground to the foreground or the focal point. Okay, you're working in that way. And the great thing about acrylics and oils is, you know, you can mix stuff with white and put the highlights on last. And so, you know, that's the kind of thinking that permeated my brain because I was mostly in those classes. In watercolor, now it's totally different. You're working on your page and you draw your stuff on rather than in acrylic or oil. I would just do the whole background and then I would go and start drawing my stuff on or painting my stuff on. Usually I just painted it on. So, whereas in watercolor, you draw it on and then you paint around everything. It's very much like our coloring books in many ways. But you got to know where those highlights are going to be up front, because usually in watercolor, traditional watercolor, you would mask them out. We're not talking using, there's a lot of cheats nowadays. In my day, there wasn't any cheats. You had to know where your highlight was because you were going to put the masking fluid on and work around it, and then you were going to rub the masking fluid off, and then you'd have your highlights there, and that would just be the white of the page. So I found that very difficult after learning the other way. So I personally prefer to go from dark to light. All right, so what we do, how I blend, be it a little space or a big space, it's all the same. Big space just takes longer. I enjoy the big spaces though, but they are hard on the wrist. All right, so I'm going to lightly, with my darkest color, which is, what did we say, Scarlet Lake, I'm going to lightly put on, I kind of map out my area where I want it to go. And if it was a bigger area, it'd be bigger. And sometimes in skies, I get out my ruler and I measure things like, where do I want my colors? There's a whole plan that goes on there. All right, but notice it even starts to fade now. So here we got to get really light as we can get. And then I go back and I darken a little bit. We're essentially creating what's called a continuous value scale, as opposed to a step value scale. This is a step value scale. We go dark, lighter, 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 lightest. And this isn't, we have reds and oranges here, so it's a colored step value scale. A continuous value scale is where it all blends together smoothly. You can't see it. And we had to do that so many times in art school. Now the process is greatly slowed down here for you. Even though I'm a total slowpoke, this is kind of hard to color on. We need a base here. All right. And Prismacolors have a lot of smooshability. You're zoomed in as far as you will go. Can I zoom you in further? No, I cannot. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So working on my continuous scale here. Oops. Like I said, Prismacolors are very forgiving. I'm going to go to the next lighter color, which was poppy red. I'm going to start out dark and get lighter and lighter as we go. How do I get you on camera better? And I'm going to ease up as I go through with the poppy red. I'm going to pull that out further. All right, next is pale vermilion. Oh, we should have sharpened. When I sharpen, I also work with a little napkin, or in this case, Kleenex here. I want the gunk off my pencil and my paper. Next color. And again, I just ease up. And I'm just doing that continuous value scale. If you're having trouble with this, I would recommend you just practice on paper like this. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we had to do just a pencil value scale and regular gray pencil. Sometimes I work back and forth, especially with Crayolas because they're harder. Less with Prismacolor. Get all the white spaces. All right, let's keep those in order. Next is orange. And so notice I'm mixing the colors. Next lightest color is yellowed orange. Oh, and I should get another lighter color out for you, because one of the hardest things is transitioning into that lightest color. And I'm pressing hard here where it's mostly yellowed orange, and then I press lighter when I go back into the other colors. Let's see, what is lighter than yellow orange? Ooh, we'll do sunburst yellow. All right, can we find sunburst yellow? Nope. I cannot find sunburst yellow, but I had to pick the smallest pencil in the lot there. I don't know what yellow this is. I can't read it. It's too tiny. Just so I can demonstrate how to work into the lightest color. The lightest color can be tricky, and oftentimes you'll see right where it ends. And so sometimes, I don't know if you can see it on camera, sometimes you can see the little lines, and so you have to go back in and very lightly kind of diffuse that a little bit. And it just takes some patience and practice. Like I said, Prismacolors are more forgiving and thus quicker. Okay, and so that, oh, you're blurry. Okay, let's get you not blurry. And that's about as good as it gets. I'd probably be a little better if my lights were set up better. Like I said, there's the whole lighting issue. All right, so let's do a similar example with our hard leaded pencils. Oy, so more work involved here. Let's look at our Crayolas. What do we want to do? Let's do, oh, well, maybe we'll just do red into orange into yellow, so it's a similar comparison. That probably would make sense. Okay, so we're going to pick, what are our choices here? What did we use there? I guess we'll pick red. My red pencil's very small. Oh, wrong pencil sharpener. Okay, let's get the mechanical out for Crayola. All right, so we got red. We're going to use red orange. Is that red orange? Red orange. Very close to red. Lobster red, orange, and light orange. Lobster red, orange. And notice orange and yellowed orange are very, very close to each other. And so I think, I mean, you know, depending, melon, it's kind of out of order there. Depending on how big my space was, I might use yellowed orange, but we're just going to skip to light orange. So we've got, what do we got here? We got lobster red, orange, light orange, orange circuit. Should we jump to a yellow? Golden yellow. Golden yellow. That's a lot of colors. All right, so now with Crayola, there's a bit of more back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They don't have the smooshability of, and notice I'm gonna, with Crayola, with Prismacolors, I have my fingers way down on the bottom here. And Prismacolors are soft, and I'm kind of overkill here. I press pretty hard. I like to kind of burnish in one step if I can. But if I go way back here and I press hard, the lead's going to snap in a Prismacolor. So I hold the Prismacolor more this way, up and down, almost up and down. Whereas with the hard-leaded pencil, my grip is more back here, so I can get that lighter. And notice this has a kind of a finer laydown, if we could call it that. Less large holes, just because it's harder, and this is very sharp too. All right, let's fade that out. All right, so now as I do a firmer grip, I'm filling in my continuous value scale here, getting lighter as I go. If there's any little gaps anywhere, I just fill them in. That was kind of pass number 2, we'll say. Here's kind of pass 3. Like I said, it's more work with the harder leaded pencils. It's still doable, you just have to really engage your patience. You can notice that, especially on the red, there's quite a different saturation. If we got the brick red out, let's see what saturation is on brick red. Looking for it. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it's purple. Let's see what the saturation level is. It's a little closer to that darkest dark, but it's kind of purpley, which is why I didn't choose it. But sometimes, if you wanted more saturation, you might put a brown under it, or a black, or purple, or even sometimes green. That would help with the saturation, the color opposite on the color wheel. All right. That's about as good as it's going to get. It's pretty burnished and saturated there. All right, so our next color down was red-orange. Oh, pencil sharpener noise. The great thing about Crayolas is I can use my old pencil sharpener that I would for normal pencils, because it's such a hard lead. Again, I'm starting out, you know, my grip is way back. I'm going to pull this color out, past the last color. I think I'm on my 3rd pass now. And the trick is just to have that smooth gradation from one color into the next. We're on lobster red now. And with something like Crayola or a very hard-leaded pencil, you really have to have the patience. I pull it back a little. So I'm working both forwards and backwards, especially more so with the hard-leaded pencils. If you want that smooth gradation. All right, next lightest color. orange. As the colors get lighter and lighter, they're lighter. I can burnish sooner than I would with a darker color. I hope that makes sense. As I go back, I get lighter. When I'm here, I press hard, and then I get lighter. My pressure gets lighter as it goes farther down. All right, what's our next color? I feel like these are out of order. Orange circuit, or they're just, let's check. Light orange is darker than orange circuit, but notice the barrels of the pencils are opposite, so you have to be careful. All right, orange circuit is next. And there's quite a long leeway into my lightest color, especially with the hard leaded pencil here, because I want a smooth transition. And I pretty much just, with the lightest color pencil, I pretty much just started burnishing right away. Because I gave myself a long, smooth transition, it's going to seem quite natural, as opposed to going hard like this and then trying to blend a light color into it. You're always going to have that line. You see that line right there, as opposed to the smooth transition there. Here. All right. Okay, I think I covered everything. This is a step value scale. Well, this is a step color scale. A value scale would be all one color. So in a step value scale, you have your color here, and as it goes lighter, you add more white. So a little bit of white, more white, more white, more white, until you get down to almost white. And then on the darker side, you would add black, which you can imagine can get quite crazy, especially if you're adding black to something like yellow or something. So a little bit of black, more, 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 more. Okay. You can also have kind of a grayed out value scale where you're adding grays. So this would be like light gray and dark gray. And that's kind of how you get those muted colors, Mirandai colors as people like to call them. All right, this is a color step scale. This is a continuous value scale, and that's how you get those smooth blends. You can practice the value scale with one color of pencil if you like, and mix white into it also. In art school, and you won't see me use it very much, I do occasionally. You won't see me use much of the white pencil or the blender pencil, although I recently bought several blender pencils because Amazon paper. It's kind of the only way sometimes when you're having trouble. But the instructors would much rather have you use just colors, which is why I always pick colors as opposed to white. Now sometimes the only option is white, like I need a white. But generally I'm going to use a lighter color if I can, if it's available in the pencil pack, if that makes sense. So these are my tips, my how-to, how exactly I blend colors. And sometimes it could be like I have all pinks here. We did all pinks here. So they're mostly in the same colorway, whereas here we're going from red to orange to yellow. This is more of an actual scale. We're starting out with the color and just, it's the white side of the scale. It's not the dark side. I could have gotten a darker pink there if I wanted, and that's just a 3-color blend. All right. This is Crayola color pencil here. I was just testing the paper. All right, that's how I do that. I thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.